and welcome to our Wednesday session with Coach Zaid Ismail on the East Wave FM airwaves. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you doing this morning, Coach Zaid?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well. I'm surprised I made it through the week, but yeah.
Wow, when somebody says, I'm surprised I made it through the week, you just know. You just know. The struggle is real. So, Coach Zaid, without wasting any time, let's get into our topic for today. Please introduce us to it.
Ooh. Today's one is a sensitive one. And I know we talk about a lot of sensitive stuff, but today's one is particularly sensitive because I think it digs deep into a lot of people's experiences. And a lot of people will feel conflicted about it as well. And the topic is about family prejudice, but family prejudice from a number of different sides. It's the obvious ones where we have people that are fixated on appearance and weight and eye color and skin color and all of that, and relative to how that reflects against the family or the parents. And then we also have the other one about children who are prejudiced against because the family doesn't like their parents.
I think that this is a very important topic, culturally sensitive, perhaps.
Extremely so, but I think it's a discussion that we seem to shy away from.
Why? Why do we shy away from this discussion?
Because I think there's so many people that has a vested interest in maintaining some of this because they themselves are guilty of it in the way they see themselves. So because we hold ourselves to a similar standard, we feel almost as if we're doing it because it's going to be good for our children. We want them to be accepted and we want them to be kind of like, incorporated into society. We don't want them to stand out and to be excluded. So we push them for the same kind of prejudices that we hold ourselves to, even though it's destroyed our self-esteem over the years.
What kind of family prejudice? Like, what is family prejudice?
I'm calling it family prejudice because families can decide whether they subscribe to it or not. It's a cultural norm for the most part. And the cultural norm is that fairer-skinned brown people are more admirable and more attractive than darker-skinned brown people. So it's shades of brown, right? And brown people who have, other than brown eyes, are also more attractive and more precious than those who have just brown or black eyes.
Okay. Where does this stem from? Where did this all start?
My knee-jerk reaction to that question is that it's part of the colonial mindset, right? So we still haven't kind of gotten ourselves out of it. But then I look at it and I think, but hold on. As much as we do celebrate that from a colonial perspective, we also celebrate it within the caste system. And a lot of the castes that are seen to be, or at least push themselves out as being superior to others, are usually fairer skinned than the other ones.
Okay.
And that's why this whole skin complexion thing and the whole eye color thing and the whole caste system and all of that, we need to consider exactly what's the cost of that.
I think also it causes so much of pain, so much of hurt to the generations that are born into this.
Yes, and that pain, that hurt, and the kind of exclusion and the contention and the hypocrisy and all of that, that's the cost of it.
Like imagine, right? If you put it into a on-the-ground scenario, you've got a fair cousin with blue or green eyes and you see how everybody dotes over them. And then, you have aunties who are like, you're so mashallah big. They put things in such
that complimentary insult kind of thing.
Masked.
Yeah.
Or they say, and they don't realize, they say the word, they say things. And that actually makes, makes, especially females, compare themselves to their cousins or their relatives, whatever the case is. What does this do for the relationships?
What relationship? I mean, you can't even call it a relationship if that's the basis of your interaction, right? It's just it's an arrangement of convenience or an arrangement of obligation. The thing is, it's like, added to that, I often hear people talk about things like, maybe if you lose some weight, you'll be able to find a husband.
Yeah.
And like, oh, look, you had a child, but now you must take care of yourself. Look how much weight you put on. You need to lose some weight.
Yeah. Definitely.
That body shaming, that image shaming, all of that, it doesn't see the human behind all of that, right? And that's one of the biggest things that I find is that as a community, globally as well, in other communities as well, but let's focus on our community, right? We start at home. We don't see the human behind the role. When I say we don't see the human behind the role, we don't see the human behind the child, we don't see the human behind the daughter or the son or even the parent, the mother or the father or the grandfather or the grandmother. We only see the role player. And then we see the role player relative to what society thinks a good role player in that role would look like. And then everyone's trying to fit in with society and everyone's blaming society. And I'm so sick and tired of this argument that, society is like this and society is like that. You are society. We are society. Society isn't some evil force that exists external to us and is trying to destroy us. We are destroying ourselves because of this ignorant approach to life.
What needs to change?
I think that's a difficult one because it sounds like an oversimplified answer, but the people who shame others because of their appearance, they lack self-esteem. Right? You can only give what you have because you can't give what you don't have. So if you can't be kind to others, it means that you don't have kindness within yourself for yourself. If you are prejudiced and bigoted and judgmental towards others, that's a reflection of your internal conversation about yourself. So you end up projecting, right? So if you look at yourself and you think, hey, maybe my fair in complexion kind of state is what earned me my credits in life. So if I ended up getting married to someone who was slightly darker than me and now my children got their skin tone, I need to get them onto skin lightening products.
Yeah.
Because society. No, you're part of the problem.
That's a very important point that you raised. We hear them saying, don't go play in the sun.
Oh, yeah.
Please don't go play outside in the sun. And you're thinking to yourself, as a child, right? You're a blank program. These are all inputs, these prejudices, these ways of thinking, all of that. A child is a blank program.
Yes.
So all of this is inputted and then it is passed on generationally. They start to actually feel superior to others.
Or inferior. And for the most part, they feel inferior to others.
Yes.
And the inferiority complex is what creates all the social problems. The superiority complex also creates problems, different problems, right? But the inferiority complexes, that's what creates all the abuse, the violence, the aggression, the substance abuse, the escapism, the reckless lifestyles, just those promiscuity and all of that. That's created because of an inferiority complex. A superiority complex will create hypocrisy. It will create people who think that they will be excused for being wrong about certain things or doing certain things wrong because, they're all that.
Do you think that, in your opinion, do you think that fair-skinned people enjoy more privilege, get more opportunities, are treated better? Is it still as prevalent?
Yes, absolutely. No doubt about it.
Okay.
Because if we can treat people in our own homes that way, then that means that we create more space for people outside of our homes who fit that criteria. I worked in the Middle East a long time ago. And I can tell you without a doubt that people who were fair-skinned, Europeans, were treated like gold even though they were absolutely unethical and disgusting in their conduct. And people who were hardworking and brown were treated like menial laborers.
Yeah, that is so true. Personal experience.
Yes.
My brother-in-law is darker in complexion. And we had traveled and we were walking. And the guard actually stopped him and said to him, I need to see your passport. But we were walking together.
Yes.
And we actually experienced it. And I'm like, but we're from the same country. I don't need to see yours. I want to see his.
Yes.
So it is associated, and he still made a joke, and he's like, you see, I need to walk closer to you so that they don't stop me, But we've experienced it, and it's a global issue. It's not just a South African issue or a cultural issue that exists within, our context.
But why is it a global issue? The global community is a reflection of the other communities that contribute towards it. And my problem is that if you're raising your children to kind of respect those global norms, then you are part of the problem. Why is it that we raise children to respect what's dysfunctional about society so that they might not be excluded, so that they can get good opportunities? And then we complain about the fact that society is so prejudicial and so bigoted and so nasty.
And the effects are so far reaching.
Completely. We destroy lives like this. There's no shortage of clients that I deal with who come to me because in their 40s and 50s, they're still struggling with the stigmas associated with exactly this kind of profiling. They still wish that their parents had seen them differently if only they weren't fat, if only they weren't unattractive, or if only they weren't dark-skinned or whatever it is, because we are that blatant about it in our communities, in our families.
I couldn't resonate more, because it seems as if if you fit the mold that society says is acceptable, you will have less trouble getting ahead in this world.
Yes.
Getting married, getting an opportunity, getting employment, studying, whatever the case is. That is why my question on, do you think that fair-skinned people who fit the mold actually get ahead faster in life?
They get ahead faster not just because of their fair skin and the opportunity that presents itself, but because of the amount of support and encouragement they will receive because they're fair skinned. So the moment you feel more welcomed, more appreciated, more seen, you're automatically more enthusiastic and more willing to push yourself to achieve better things,
Of
right?
course.
Because the world is waiting for you. But if you're always undermined, diminished, ridiculed, mocked, teased, judged, criticized, you're going to be sitting there waiting for a gap to open because you're afraid of more of the same. So automatically we enable and we create a space that is more favorable to the ones who are more socially acceptable.
And I think also, these women give birth to their daughters. And how does that translate as a parent? How do you parent knowing that you have this inferiority complex, knowing that you are up against all of, these things that you faced when you were younger? How do you then parent a girl child? And what do you pass on? And what kind of positive parenting do you do there?
And here's where the contradiction comes in, right? And the conflict comes in is because let's assume you're a well-meaning parent and you experience that prejudice. So you grow up and you conduct yourself in a way that defines you by how others see you. Your dark skin, maybe your plumpy physique, whatever it is, whatever it was that people used to ridicule you about, even your facial features or whatever it is, right? They might have mocked you about that. So you still live by that. You shrink yourself into your role according to that, according to what you think people think of you. And then you try to raise a child with a positive self-image, right?
Yeah.
And the child grows up with this positive self-image because you put in all the work, but they see your negative self-image as the experience of how life works. How is the child supposed to know which is correct? When things don't go their way, what do they lean on? Do they lean on what they saw in you, or do they lean on what you told them is true?
And then are you walking the talk?
No, you're not.
Because you're telling them you need to be confident, you need to look after yourself, you need to do all of these things, and they're looking at you like, but what about you, mom? Like, how do you do this?
Yes.
Like, I don't know what it looks like.
Yes, and then it's do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly.
And there's the hypocrisy. And if there's one thing that stunts our growth is if we get conflicting signals about what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, what's acceptable, what's unacceptable. Because then we have to figure it out. Or the only time we're going to figure it out is when we realize we chose the wrong one. We don't have consistency, we don't have insight, we don't have wisdom. And all of that is lost when you focus on these frivolous, kind of petty physical attributes that actually say nothing about the quality of the human.
And it brings me back to the fact that the beauty industry thrives on your insecurities.
Yeah, like I said last week, if it wasn't for our insecurities, the vanity industry would not be able to sell you anything.
100%. So how do they benefit? By implanting insecurities? By breeding more insecurities, like insecure people or insecure principles that, seed insecurity?
I think they're opportunistic more than they are the ones that set the trend, right? They will see and they will know their audience, their target audience, about what it is that they grapple with. Like, okay, let's go into the Indian community and let's see if they got a problem with this kind of prejudice, skin color. Oh, look, we've got a nice skin lightening thing for you so that you can be radiant.
Yeah.
Or look, they've got a lot of skin blemishes because of the amount of time they spend outside in the sunlight because of the laboring workforce and all of that. So they go to the black community and like, oh, look, we can get rid of all your skin blemishes. And all of that sort of nonsense is what it is that they do. They're opportunistic. And now we're taking our lead from opportunists.
And how does that impact our mental health?
It defines our mental health. It defines what we think of ourselves because we see ourselves through that lens. We see ourselves through the blemishes and through the uneven skin tone and through the dark skin tone and through the imperfect physique. And then everyone wants to wear corsets and belts and all sorts of things to be able to hide their imperfect physique. And on the first night of their wedding or of their marriage, they're both in for a shock because they were both hiding a whole lot of stuff to each other.
Absolutely. And that is the illusion that is created, right?
Yeah.
Along the lines. And then it's, you lied to me, you are not the person you said you were. So it does, it breeds. It's just a breeding ground. And who knew? I mean, when we were growing up, we were told to respect our elders.
Yeah.
Don't talk back. Even if they hurt your feelings, you cry on the way home in the car quietly because you're afraid to say,
And maybe that's what we need to redefine more than anything else is what does respecting your elders look like? Right? Does respecting your elders look like absolute compliance? No. Because the most notable personalities throughout history were open to being questioned and were open to explaining themselves. Now, if you want to live by the mantra of do as I say, not as I do, then you're not going to be open to being questioned or being able to have a meaningful discussion about what you're saying is the right thing to do. Then it's about compliance. You will or else. Children must be seen, not heard. And then if you're seen, you must be seen the way we want you to be seen, not the way you feel comfortable being seen. And if you don't fit the criteria, then we don't want you to be seen. You must like hide away. You must just like, hey, when people come and visit, don't come in front. Only send your sister in front. Because she's the nice one,
Wow.
People are cruel while they think that they're just protecting their children. They're not. They're cruel.
Yeah. And it's important. I mean, you have people saying, oh, this one will get married quickly.
Yes.
And like as a teenager, I would be like, what does that mean? I mean, we had acne, we had weight issues. They don't, and I find society very ignorant.
Yes.
I'm going to use the word ignorant because there are legitimate imbalances hormonally. There are health issues happening, and they will just tone it down to, you mustn't eat so much. They'll stand next to you and be like, oh, but you don't even eat that much. And it's like, what is that supposed to mean?
Why do you eat more? Why do we need comfort food? We need comfort food because you're not emotionally nourished. So you're not emotionally nourished by your parents at home or the home environment because it's so prejudicial and so judgmental. So then you try to like compensate for that by at least eating the things that appeal to you because you're young, you don't know any different yet. That results in the weight problem, and then they shun you and they shame you for the weight problem that is a consequence of their prejudice.
How prevalent is it, emotional eating, due to...
That's how we operate.
Everyone?
Everyone. We're all the same. We're all wired the same. We're all human before we are Indian or Malay or whatever racial classification you want to go for, or cultural identity you want to go for. You're a human first. And how you operate as a human is consistent. If you take someone from the middle of the Amazon that never had contact with what we consider civilization these days, their emotional experience will result in the same physical impact as our emotional experience.
That's so important. Before we are anything, we are human.
Yes. And unfortunately, if you don't see the humanness in yourself, you will not see it in your children or in your partner.
Do you find emotional dysfunction as a result of family prejudice?
I think it's the primary contributor towards our emotional balance, emotional well-being in life. That's our starting point, our grounding point, and we either want more of it or we want nothing of it.
If a person cuts off their family because they feel that, this person always has negative things to say, makes me feel inferior, compares me to everybody around me, and I just don't feel good about it. Is that a good response?
Solving the wrong problem. Because your blood ties, the people close to you, as long as that is not in a good space, you'll overcompensate for what's lacking in that through unhealthy means in other spaces. And then you'll expect more from your partner or your relationships, or you'll escape it and you'll need more intense ways of escaping it. And that's where the substance abuse and alcoholism and everything else comes in.
That's a very good point that you brought up, because those who are prejudiced against, the victims, they go on into relationships.
Yes.
How does this affect their relationships?
And then the relationship is supposed to create this world that isn't so cruel for them. So they place unrealistic expectations on their partner because they assume that, hey, you come from that kind of background, I come from that kind of background, so we're going to do better, right? And that's the good intention. But if you come from that background and I come from that background and we want to do better, how do we know how to do better? We don't. We're going to have to experiment. It's trial and error. And that's where it gets expensive. Because that's where we start with our good intention, and I didn't mean it that way.
Yeah.
And another good intention, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. Yeah, but you keep doing it. Yeah, but I don't mean it that way. And that's how you then spiral, and eventually you start hurting each other because you don't realize that your expectation of each other is grounded in what it is that you don't want in life, not how you want to achieve life.
And how much of childhood issues do you bring into your relationship? Your partner doesn't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's rare, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that people go so deep as to say, actually, this has nothing to do with you. It's everything that I've brought into this relationship from my life experience that, I could be taking it out on you or projecting onto you, as we say.
Right. And what requires that kind of sense of self or mindfulness? A healthy self-esteem. And what's the one thing that's destroyed in a family that is full of bigotry and criticism and harsh judgment? Self-esteem. Yeah. So now you destroy the self-esteem of someone. They go out into the world and they reject everything that they experienced when they were younger in your home. And they expect to make good decisions in life. Doesn't work. And that's why so many people are choosing not to get married these days, or not to find partners, or not to be in committed relationships.
True.
Because they can't trust. And that's what's destroyed, is your trust is destroyed. Your trust in yourself, your trust in humanity, your trust in life, that is destroyed. So that means you're going to look for safe spaces. And the safe spaces you look for are going to be things that are predictable, things that have a low probability of having reason to reject you, which is going to be things like academics and professional spaces, because the criteria to be accepted and respected is easy to achieve compared to life.
And also, it results in social isolation.
Yes.
Right? Because you're creating a safe space.
Yeah.
So I'd rather be alone than I don't open myself up to criticism, and I can protect myself.
Yes.
So this person then starts to retreat within themselves, decreasing their social functioning. I mean, and then this person goes into the workplace,
Right.
or there's no way that any man is an island. At some point,
Right.
you're going to have to socialize.
And you end up socializing with people that resonate with your secluded kind of way of looking at life.
Right.
So then the victims of this kind of prejudice, they all gather together and they find each other somehow or the other. And then those victims all get together and do the same unhealthy things because it makes them feel better, and they understand each other and they don't judge each other because, judgment is not a good thing. And they then have more good intentions with bad methods that create even more bad outcomes.
It's a cycle. Now, on the family unit, this person feels not supported. They feel this is not the space that I belong in. I'm a misfit. So they wouldn't miss me even if I never attended family gatherings.
Yes.
So you see them retreat into the unhealthy coping mechanisms that they develop for themselves. Gaming, for example.
Yeah, they're convinced that my presence doesn't make a difference because all the time I'm just being told how I'm not good enough, or how I need to do better at this or better at that, because there's always a focus on everything that's falling short, not a focus on everything that's right. And that's part of the family prejudices. We're so fixated on this fear-based approach to life that we emphasize everything that's going to be a risk, and we just completely undermine everything that is actually positive and beneficial.
This is so important, and I don't think it's spoken about ever. I've never heard family prejudice being covered. And I think it's such an important conversation because it affects so much in your life. It's a domino effect. And every single one of us have experienced some kind of family prejudice at one point in our life.
You know what's the most popular one? Most pervasive, I would imagine, is where you innocently tell one child, why can't you be more like your brother? Or why can't you be more like your sister?
Yeah. or they say, look at your brother. They won't even.
Why must you
Yeah.
always give us so much trouble? Just by saying that, you're already
Yeah.
implying that they are worse than their siblings. And
Yeah.
what you've just done is you've created sibling rivalry.
Yeah.
And then you blame them for being petty and nasty and malicious towards each other.
Yeah, because it creates a resentment.
Yes.
That child does not look up to. They feel like I'm compared to. So
Yes.
then it's like, what's so special about you? And that you find that relationship breaks. Because it's heartbreaking how parents can actually affect sibling relationships.
True. And it like, on the one hand, you actively dividing them. You're creating this divisiveness. And on the other hand, you're also denying them the opportunity to experience what it's like to belong.
And then you've got the inferiority, superiority thing being born in your house because, I mean, years later, you hear them saying, but mommy always said you were her favorite.
Yes.
Or mom always treated you better. You always got more than me. You
Yes.
find there's a scorekeeping that happens after that.
And you didn't know how difficult it is because you weren't treated the way we were treated. And
Yes.
it was easy for you and they were more strict with me and
Yeah.
I had more responsibility and all of that. And that's typically the kind of gripes that you hear from firstborns, right? Is that they often have reason
Yeah.
to believe that they were treated unfairly, strictly, while their siblings got away with murder.
And that's why firstborns become the next parent in line because they like, hey mom, you gone soft. Let me show you what
Yeah.
you did.
And then they want to like exercise their authority over their children because if I had to deal with that, why can't you?
Exactly.
Right? Because fairness, justice, the appearance, the impression, the perception of being treated fairly is the primary reason why it is that we will behave badly. Is that if I feel you're treating me unfair compared to someone else, it's my perception, then I'll show you my other side. Then I'm going to behave badly. I'm going to give you reason to appreciate me.
It's like, when you talk to people, say, if I'm going to be accused of doing this while I'm innocent, let me rather do it. This is how they justify it. They're like, let me rather do it, and at least I'm being, I am being persecuted for something I actually did, because there's no trust here.
If you assume the worst of me, I'll give you reason to.
Yeah,
No problem.
And it all stems from family prejudice.
And the family prejudice stems from parents who have a low self-esteem. Right? So if parents are still parenting with a low self-esteem and they haven't paid attention to all the accomplishments in life that convinces them or that proves that what they believe to be true about themselves is actually not true. It's really that simple. If you have a low self-esteem, look at what you accomplished. And then take away your reason for accomplishing it and you'll see what your capability is. Right? And I want to just unpack that very quickly because it's such a powerful kind of realization, right? You look at your life and you decide whether you believe you accomplished anything of value or not. Now, not because the people around you think it's valuable, because that's usually what we do. We look around us and we think, yeah, well, I got this qualification or I got that job or something, but look, no one really cares, so it doesn't really matter. No, it must matter to you. You must understand what's valuable about it. And if you understand what's valuable about it, you need to recognize that you put in what was needed to accomplish that thing that you think is valuable. Now, if you want other people to think that it's valuable as well, you can't just demand that they must see the value in it. You have to demonstrate the value of it. And the way you demonstrate the value of it is through living it, right? You've got to live as if you matter if you want other people to believe that you matter. You can't just demand that you must matter and then only you're going to live that way.
That is a powerful, powerful point because people wait for others to say, oh, you are doing such and such in order to feel accomplished. Like I'll only feel accomplished when.
Yes.
I will only be happy when. I will only feel like I've achieved anything when I hear it from others. Like, oh, you must be doing so well. I see the car, and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, now my ego is bolstered.
Exactly. Now they're going to respect me. So now I can drive in Sandton because I've got a car that doesn't look out of place in Sandton. No, if you like Sandton because it's got nice flashy buildings and flashy lights in it, drive in Sandton with your little skadon. It's what you're appreciating about it. It's not about whether people think you belong there or not. The moment you're defined by what you think others think of you, the moment you restrain yourself because you think they're going to think a certain thing of you, you are imposing that on yourself. You can't blame people for that. Because you're giving people permission to say, hey, you're not good enough. So if you operate as if you're not good enough, then don't complain when people treat you as if you're not good enough.
And you give people power over you.
Yes.
Like that person has the ability to make you feel good, make you feel worse, and there's nothing more dangerous because you don't evaluate the source of who
Yes.
you're giving the power to.
Exactly. And then we complain that people are like this and people are like that. But hey, you're people. You are part of society. Whether the society is kind to you or not, you are part of it. And how you show up in society is what's going to either challenge the norms or enable the norms.
I think that that is so powerful. You're either a part of the problem or you are, a remedy. You are trying to solve the problem.
Yes.
And if you are enabling this, and family prejudice is something that affects people, families, societies, communities, even workspaces, because it trickles down. It's not an isolated thing that only when you're with your family you feel a certain way. You feel this way no matter where you are, no matter what interaction you are having. It does affect it.
Yes, it does, completely. So how do you get back to yourself? How do you even know who you are? I mean, that's the biggest problem, is that you ask people, who are you? And they can tell you what they think people think of them,
Yeah.
or what they want people to think of them.
Yeah.
But they can't tell you who they are. They can't tell you what they stand for.
Yeah.
And if you want to challenge the norms of society, you don't just rebel. You have to have something of substance that you're offering as an alternative. So if you don't want your children to grow up bigoted, grow up being part of the problem of the bigotry and the prejudice and the racism and everything that we see going, if you don't want them to be part of it, then you don't raise them to accept others. No, that's condescension. You raise them not to even see that as an attribute that matters. You raise them not to look at people through the color of their skin, so that they don't think like, hey, look, I'm a good person because look, I've got non-white friends and I've got white friends and I've got colored friends and I've got Indian friends. No, we're not trying to raise a cosmopolitan child. We're trying to raise a human being.
True.
So it's the fact that we place emphasis on these attributes, on these physical attributes. That's the problem. The problem is not the fact that we must be more accepting of it or more kind about it. It's the fact that we see it in the first place.
I think that's so important. That is so important.
It's like we want a naughty badge because, like, look, I didn't look at you as a white person. I didn't look at you as a black person. I looked at you as a person.
Yeah.
No. The fact that you're even contemplating that means you're part of the problem.
It's like I didn't even know you were a brown person before someone told me you were a brown person. To me, you were just my friend.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's social experimentation that happened with us as well, because transitioning as 80s babies who actually went to school in the 90s and transitioned throughout everything, we know exactly what it is to sit in a mixed class and be segregated and then be counted and then be asked how many coloreds, how many Indians, I don't even want to lie. My mom is Malay, my dad is Indian. When the question came up, how many Indians? My hand goes half up and then it goes back down. And then they go, how many colors? And then my hand goes half up and it comes back down. And I go, after that, I'm like, sorry, sir, I have a little dilemma. And I go home with this dilemma. And I'm like, Dad, on the way home from school, I'm like, Dad, today they asked the question.
Yes.
And he's like, what question is that? And I'm like, they asked how many colors and then they asked how many Indians. I don't know because you and Mom, I don't know.
Which one must it be?
And he laughed so hard. He says, you are undefined.
Exactly.
You are
Anomalous.
undefined.
Be proud of it.
And till today, I don't know how to answer that question. And it's a standing joke because before you asked me to label myself, I didn't see myself as either.
Right.
And so you have people, I think Trevor Noah also puts it perfectly. He says, when people look at you with, are you, this or are you that? You see the question coming.
Yes.
And in a world where you grew up just being Nazia, for example, now it's Nazia colored or Nazia Indian. So the labels are adding on and you're feeling, if I go that way, what prejudice comes with that? If I go that way, what prejudice comes with that? That's the truest way I can describe my own experiences.
Right. But the question is, why is it that you're still playing towards that? Why do you still feel as if you need to choose?
Yeah.
Right? Because the moment you feel compelled to choose, and people are going to say I'm being idealistic, but prove me wrong or give me an alternative if you disagree with me. But the moment you feel compelled to choose, you're enabling the system.
Yeah.
Right? You're enabling that prejudice, you're enabling that criticism, that judgment, all of that nonsense. You're enabling it. And that's what I'm saying. You mustn't raise your children to accept people of different colors. You must raise your children not to see color as a defining attribute.
Exactly. And I mean, we had Chinese people in our class.
Yes.
We sat next to whatever race, gender, whatever was going on. We were a melting pot. Diwali, Eid, Christmas. We were all Ascension Day. We were all,
Yeah.
it was like, and that's the beautiful part about being South African. Not taking away from the topic, is that the diversity that, we're supposed to enjoy.
Yeah, but you're touching on something that's very dear to me. The South African identity. What is it? Who decides what it is?
Yeah.
Right? And that's why this whole nationalism thing is so problematic, because it tries to normalize multiple cultures into a single identity. You can't. So you have a cultural identity because there's a cultural inheritance that speaks to you. It's part of your lineage, part of your DNA, because it's lived experiences generation after generation. But it's the experiences, the traditions, not the prejudices that you must inherit.
Yeah.
You don't develop a sense of superiority because you come from one caste compared to someone else, or you come from one religion compared to someone else.
When it comes to castes, please break it down for us. What exactly is a caste?
A caste is like your tribal affiliation within the kind of racial group that you're in.
Right.
Right. So, for example, in the Indian space, we talk about the Memons and the Cockneys and the Colvards and the Surtis and the Kinnams and things like that. Those are castes. Now you go to India and you get the more traditional one, the more deeply ingrained one. And that's where, I can't remember the name of them, but that's where you got the one caste who is consistently treated as if they are absolutely subhuman. Regardless of how much they accomplish or what they're capable of or what they do, they are treated as if they're subhuman because I think it's the Dalits, if I'm not mistaken. And that's what the caste system does. It says that just because of your lineage, of your origin, you will never be good enough. And here's what's happening, right? Because we have such a broader visibility of what's happening around us in the world, children who are growing up in that kind of prejudice these days, they're looking around them on social media and they're seeing that, hold on, they don't identify with this, and I like the way they feel because they don't feel the way I feel because they're showing up in a different way, and that resonates with me more than how I'm being treated at home. And that's why you'll find that cross-cultural relationships are becoming more common, because for two people from different cultural backgrounds to even consider each other as partners, they both must feel as if they have no belonging in their cultural inheritance. So if you raise children with that kind of bigotry, the village is no longer so secluded, so contained, that the village is going to reinforce your bigotry, your prejudices, which means that the broader village that they're going to come across in social media, in their travels and in their interactions in school and other public spaces, that village is going to inform their perspective. And when they see that your village, that you have all of these controls and restrictions and prejudices and everything else, that it doesn't create space for them to be human, they're going to polarize towards the spaces that do allow them to feel human. And for all the wrong reasons, they're going to make all the well-intentioned decisions that will then create new problems.
What you are saying is so relevant because I am just reading through the caste-based discrimination that exists. And although it is banned by law and whatever on paper, let's come to the ground now.
Yeah, but just before you do, there's something I heard once about legislation. That when you have to legislate your culture, you've already lost it.
How true. I mean, we're sitting and looking at the what's actually on paper versus what happens on the ground, and it's two very different things. And how often are people taken to task for discrimination?
Why is it that we still need to enforce BEE and AA and all of those things? Because we're now more than 30 years after apartheid. It's because endemically and culturally, we haven't shifted our perspective of how we look at people.
And then let's look at how that affects. Last week we spoke about the role of women in society. And there was a question that I remember I asked, do women have to work twice as hard to have a seat at the table, to be paid market-related salaries same as their male counterparts? And right now, seeing that, women were actually the biggest victims of caste-based discrimination educationally and in terms of social standing. Lower caste women faced double discrimination.
Right. You know what's my general response to those things? Is that why are you fighting for a seat at someone else's table? Why don't you build your own? If there's so many of you who are being equally discriminated against, why don't you build your own ecosystem instead of trying to fight to be part of someone else's ecosystem? We're so fixated on wanting to be part of what has been celebrated as successful and amazing and accomplished and everything else, that we don't consider how it is that we can create an alternative. Remember I said earlier, you can't just rebel and challenge the system. You have to create an alternative, offer something that has more value than what is currently there.
Absolutely.
Now we keep fighting to be part of the system so that we hope to change it from within the system. You're wasting your life. The system is larger than you. And until the system has critical mass, which is going to be generations and generations of that same determined kind of rebelliousness against it, there's going to be a lot of lives destroyed and wasted when all you could do was just focus on creating your own alternative.
And when you talk about this, there's a particular kind of, not influencer, not TikToker, but there's a female truck driver that I love to watch. It's a young girl, and she basically just posts, she drives trucks for particular brands, and she just posts there, a woman in a man's world.
Yeah.
And there's another woman who's actually started a logistics company with trucks.
Right.
And it's called She Moves. And
I've heard of that.
Yes, and it's beautiful because when you see that truck, you even feel solidarity. You're like, yes, girl, go do it.
You see that solidarity?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
You're like, yes, woman doing it.
Yes, and then you just polarizing instead of actually creating alternatives.
Yes. Yeah.
For me, it's the thing of like, if women believe they are capable and competent and men are not recognizing that, then don't wait for men to benefit from your competence. Go and apply it in your own independent capacity with other women who also are similarly minded and create something of your own.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this because I'm saying like leave men alone in that. I'm saying, why must you waste your life looking for acceptance into a space that is already toxic and jaundiced? Life is too short. It's too precious to waste on trying to convince someone else why you're good enough.
That's very powerful. I wish a lot of people take note of that. Life is too short to be convincing people that you are worthy, that you are worth it, that you should be validated by them, accepted by them. I think take a deep breath and move on. You're worthy enough. You are enough. When someone says you are enough, as you are enough. We need to understand that you were created perfectly.
Right. And you decide what you're doing with it.
Yes.
So you decide whether being enough looks like where you're at right now. Are you okay with that? If you're not okay with that, don't blame society for it. Do something about it.
Yeah. Don't blame social media for it. Don't blame the algorithm for it. It only responds to what you're paying attention to.
I'm almost tempted to share a personal anecdote on this, right? I normally don't like to because I don't like to make the conversation about me. It's about like this is a universal truth that we're discussing. But I'm not being idealistic when I say don't try to force yourself to change the system, or don't lose yourself to trying to change the system or trying to convince people why they should respect you. In 2018, when I walked out of corporate, it was for exactly that reason. I realized that I wasted too much life trying to prove that I was actually adding value, because even though the accomplishments and the successes proved that there was value, on a personal basis, I always had run-ins with people who wanted to behave unethically or lethargically, right? And eventually I decided, what's the cost of that? And the cost of it was that I lost myself to that. I lost my health to that. I lost my personal kind of composure and peace of mind to that. And that had far-reaching consequences on my personal life.
Yeah.
And I woke up one day and I looked at my personal life and I thought, I don't like this. I don't like who I've become or who I am. And I don't like the fact that by the time I get home, I don't have enough energy or even patience to be able to sit down and just have a fun evening. And I literally walked into my boss's office and said, I've had enough. And this was after a comparatively successful career, right? I had achieved quite a fair amount of seniority in my role. And I walked away from it. Not because I was trying to prove a point, but because I wasn't willing to pay that price anymore. And for years after that, I had everyone around me telling me, why don't you just get another job? And I decided, no way. I'm not going to get another job because I don't want to pay that price. At what cost are you holding on to, I have to? At what cost? Who's paying that cost? Not just you, but the people that are waiting for you to show up for them.
Very true and very powerful.
And you can lick your wounds all you want about the mistakes you've made or the things you thought you had no choice in. Or you can stop wasting time licking your wounds and you can recognize that life is still with you and you can still do something about it. So do something about it instead of living in the past and lamenting it and then trying to live vicariously through your children by trying to get them to have the life you never had. Because you're not teaching them how to claim their life. You're just giving them privilege. And then when they grow up privileged and they don't want to have anything to do with you when you're old and frail because you've exhausted yourself raising them and now they're living the life that you wanted them to live, then you can't complain then. Because you're not teaching them the right things. You're not imparting the right values. You're not giving them the right lived experiences. You're filling their heads with a whole lot of self-assurance and privilege and indulgence that is well-intentioned, but is not going to connect them to their social structure.
And the reality is that things change, circumstances change.
All the time.
If they're not going to become adaptable human beings who can think for themselves and not through you every time,
Yes.
you're raising someone who's going to be dependent on you. And that person getting married is going to be a problem. They can't make space for other people. They can't trust.
Yes.
So very, very, I think, while our listeners are enjoying the topic, we've got a comment here. Hope you are both well. What a beautiful and uplifting topic on today's show. Truly inspiring and so relevant. And thank you so much for the meaningful content. May you continue to touch hearts and make a difference through your platform. Loving the show. So, yeah, I think that this is not talked about. I haven't heard this topic spoken about as much as it's supposed to because I feel it's broad.
It is very broad. And usually when we talk about it in kind of like, we want to take a dig at establishment. And we want to take a dig at the leaders of the culture and all of those things. We're not giving people something to work with. And I hold myself accountable by testing whether or not am I just having an opinion or am I providing something of substance that you can work with? What is it? What's the takeaway from this?
Yeah.
And for me, the takeaway from this is like, understand how pervasive, how wide and overarching these prejudices are. These cultural norms and religious norms and things. And I'm saying religious, not spiritual, because it's the identity it forms in us that gives us reason to believe that because of that identity, we're superior or inferior. Recognize that. That's not who you are. Who you are is what you do with that. Who you are is how you show up in spite of that. Are you born into privilege and you only allow yourself to be exposed to areas and spaces of privilege? Or do you allow yourself to engage with any human regardless of privilege? Are you living to maintain your standard of living because that's how you must appear and you don't know how to have less than that? Or are you appreciating what that standard of living has equipped you for and what are you doing with that? So whether you're light-skinned, dark-skinned, and if you're dark-skinned and you want to prove to the light-skinned people that, hey, look, I can also accomplish things even though I'm not privileged and all, you're wasting your life. You're wasting such sweet, beautiful accomplishments in wanting other people to appreciate how much you've accomplished because, like, I showed you.
Yeah. Despite me being dark, despite me being fat, despite me being, whatever the prejudice is that was brought into your space and thrown at you. And you really don't need to feel like that. You really cannot be happy when. You can't be happy when. You must be happy regardless.
You won't see the human in your children or in your partner if you don't see the human in yourself. So if you're defined by your cultural identity and your norms and your caste and your complexion and your physical attributes, then you are missing out on a hell of a lot of beauty and amazing experiences in life because you're driven by the aesthetic. You're still not looking at substance of life itself.
Absolutely. Coach Zaid today has been so powerful, so relevant, so important. And I feel that it is a very broad topic.
It is. And I'd love for us to be able to dig into some more of it at some point.
Absolutely. We will definitely revisit this. Coach Zaid, Eid Mubarak in advance.
Yes, and you too.
And
To the listeners.
and to our listeners. And thank you so much, Jazakallah khair, for imparting your wisdom, your knowledge, and preparing our brains, like opening up our minds to different perspectives on things that we have actually faced, and even though we weren't conscious of it, we are now.
Alhamdulillah. If anything, we need to hold each other to a higher standard in the same way that we want others to hold us to a higher standard. Well, that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
We usually don't want others to hold us to a higher standard. We want them to be so amazed at the standard we currently have. No,
Yes.
Life is about improvement. That's what makes it amazing.
Absolutely. And, it's just like we said, opening up our minds to that and making ourselves vulnerable and say, you know what, this is actually what we are facing. And you know what, it's okay. Let's talk about the things that unsettle us. That has been the Chat Network for today. That is the 18th of March. And we are back next week, same time, same place. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.